All right, everybody, welcome to the Pastor Speak podcast. I'm Aaron, and today I have with me a special guest, someone who's never been on the podcast before. It's a momentous occasion. Mm-hmm. We have our intern, Derrick Rodriguez.
Yep, I'm here.
You're here. It's great to have you.
Podcast debut for him.
Yeah,
and you
first
just heard
time.
Zach, and we also have Pastor Derek.
I guess I'm making an official pastor speak.
Yes, you make it official.
Yeah,
pastor
because there's a pastor here.
There is a pastor here,
Yeah.
so now we can say that this is the Pastor Speak podcast.
That works.
Not just the ordained speak or
The Reverend
ordained and
speak.
intern.
That's right.
I said Reverend Speak podcast a few weeks ago, which was a fun little gag, I think. But anyways, today I wanted to give an opportunity for Derek to share a little bit about himself and introduce you to the church, because we have an internship partnership with Midwestern, the seminary up north, and you're our new guy. So, Derek, would you please share a little bit about your background, how you grew up, and maybe even your testimony?
Yep. So I was born in Louisiana. My dad was in the military in the Army, so I was born on a military base. Then after that, almost immediately moved to Oklahoma, and that's where I spent all my life up until this point. It's just McAlester, Oklahoma, and then college in Oklahoma City. And so grew up in McAlester, going to First Baptist Church in McAlester, and was from day one. I was in the church like every Sunday, just consistently. My parents had me in there, so that was great growing up in that. And then spent my time there playing soccer, being in the band, just having a good old time. But yeah, I was huge in the youth group at the time, just trying to be involved and stuff like that. And this is where my testimony kind of comes in. But throughout that time, I was trying to just live that good person life, like ethically, morally good, and saying like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian because I said a prayer when I was 7 that I didn't really believe at the time. And so I spent a good portion of my life having one side of myself where I was like, man, I want to go do all these good things, be a good Christian as I should. But the other side where I was still completely living apart from Christ, from God, in my sin. And it was really just two sides to me, the church side and then the rest of the week is how I lived. And so I came to a point where I was like, man, if this is what it means to be a Christian, this is not it for me. I don't know what this is. This is not what it's supposed to be. And I was like, I don't know what to do. But then it came to summertime and they had a church camp called False Creek, very big. And so went to False Creek, and the camp speaker, he gave his testimony, and his testimony was the same exact thing as mine. And so something about that night, hearing the gospel, then hearing his testimony where he had the same exact thing as mine, and he came to realize, man, this is what the love of Christ really is. It's a true relationship, not just studying, being a good Christian, being a good person. Like it's really a relationship with Christ that you live every day and you're always walking in. And so once I heard that, that's when I gave my life to Christ for real, to really start that relationship, and everything changed from then on. And I mentioned I went to college in Oklahoma City, and so this is the point now where I go there. So I went there to be an accountant, to go to Oklahoma City, play soccer there. And that's what I did for those 4 years. But along the way, the Lord changed my path, changed my heart. And really, if I were to be honest, I'd say I knew ministry was where he wanted me from day one. But I kind of ran from that, away from it, to what I wanted to do for myself, which was to just go make a lot of money and play sports. Soccer's just a passion of mine. But so halfway through that degree, he changed my life in that way. And that's where I started a pastoral residency at First Baptist Church of Newcastle, and spent some time there, really growing for a year. That was my senior year, this past year, before I came here. And then they're the people that really were like, hey, what are you going to do next? Not time to start thinking about that. What are you going to do? And there were some guys that had gone to Midwestern online and spoke highly of it. And so I started looking into like different seminaries, Midwestern, New Orleans Baptist, Southeastern, Southern, like just different places. And the Lord really opened the door for Midwestern. And so that's how I ended up where I am today with you guys.
Cool. Then what are some of your ministry passions? You mentioned soccer as a passion in your life, but what are some of your ministry passions?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I think soccer I could say is a ministry passion right now in this time of my life, because being on the soccer team, it's nice being a part of a team that is a group of believers. And so that's something that's fun I get to do on the side. But here, like in the church, one thing that I like is working with this guy, working with Zach, and the youth. I love working with the youth. They're fun. someone's got to throw some dodgeballs, ping pong balls at the kids, something, rough them up a little bit, but then also share the gospel. So they're a joy to work with, and I love doing that. So that's one passion of mine. But.
So he mentioned you, Zach. So what kind of things are you having Derek do as an intern?
I have him stand against the wall, and then all of the kids line up with those dodgeballs and throw them immediately at. No.
Good.
No, I'm having him lead some small groups. He leads a small group of our middle school boys on Wednesday nights and helps me lead a group of our high school boys as well on Wednesday nights. And then when we have worship, he actually has a little bit of a percussion background. So he's playing the cajon, which is the little box drum. If you've ever seen that. So he's pretty good at that. And then pretty much everything else. So let's go get pizza. Let's run and grab it. He comes with me and he rides along and enjoys the ride. So it's part of being an intern. It's the fun part.
The spontaneousness of youth ministry.
Absolutely.
They don't teach you how to set up chairs and get pizza at seminary, right?
Nope.
No,
They teach you all the other
that
important
class
stuff.
was taken off of the
Yep.
the list. Yeah.
I feel like you guys can figure that one out, I guess.
Yeah.
So a testimony is kind of a story about how God has worked in your life, but how is God working in your life now?
Yeah. So definitely right now is a unique season for me because in the past, of course you had I was just going through life as a Christian, in a sort of different way than now, because now I'm in school. Now I have classes all the time and I'm always doing work. And so definitely he's doing a work of just in my mind, in my learning through classes. And so that's been a great thing to be a part of and really diving deep into different passages and the how-to of studying scripture and all those different things. There's so much that I have yet to learn and I'm excited to be learning right now as I'm here. And so just got that learning mindset with whatever he has to teach me while I'm at the seminary.
Well, speaking of learning, what is your major?
Yep. So I'm getting a Master of Divinity. And so normally, they may phrase it different places at different seminaries, but they usually have it down to Master of Theological Studies or Master of Divinity. And so Master of Theological Studies is simply put, you get halfway to the Master of Divinity, and then you kind of stop there. And then you have the Master of Divinity, which is a full comprehensive degree that's the flagship pastoral degree. And so that's the one that I'm getting is the Master of Divinity. But
What do you hope to do with that?
yeah, so right now, if you were to ask me to really fill in the blank of what I'm going to do, I would say youth pastoring.
Okay.
But I always want to follow that up with I am willing to go wherever the Lord leads.
Sure.
One thing that I've really learned over the past year is that before that year, I was youth ministry's it, nothing else. But I've really opened up to man, if the Lord calls me to lead some college ministry or be a youth pastor or pastor at church, I'm really just open and I want to learn how to do each one of those things. I want to be able to do whatever he calls me to the best of my ability. So, but to fill in the blank, I'd say youth pastoring like this guy.
Super cool. And you were once an intern here as well.
I was, yeah. So actually, Derek and I went, it's called something different now. It's kind of evolved, and it's really, really cool to see. 5 years ago, what this program looked like. It's called the Timothy Track when I was involved. And so
It's Midwestern Seminary internship program. It's not our internship
that's right.
program.
That's right. Yeah. I just did it with us. And it's a really cool process where you interview, and he had to go through this, where you interview with that staff, and then that interview gets thrown around to a bunch of different pastors, and this guy ends up with it. And then you get a phone call with Derek, and you get to talk about it. So same process. He's now part of what's called the Shepherd's Fellowship, which is kind of what that program has become now, which is just really, really neat. But yeah, I had an awesome opportunity to do that here at Blue Valley. And now that they've, hired me full time, I'm not sure how they feel about me anymore. So.
They liked you enough to bring you on. So.
They liked me as an intern, and then they went, "Oh, we liked him when he was just here on Monday."
You were much better when you were free.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
I'm kidding.
That's exactly right.
So Derek, tell us about. Young Derek. I'm saying older Derek.
Old's fine. Just
Pops.
yeah, pops.
Derek Lynch, Pastor Derek. Tell us about the internship program at Midwestern. Give us a few more details and how you select candidates.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, leadership at Midwestern came to us and said we would like to essentially do kind of an advanced placement program with guys who have some either Bible college degrees or some kind of ministry background, where they get moved. They get to start further on in the program, taking the previous experience into account. And then we would like them during that first year to have as part of their program that they partner with a church, Timothy, be a Timothy to a Paul, a Timothy track. And so we were one of the first we were in that first group who partnered with Midwestern in doing that. What we do is we pay them a fee that is used to offset their tuition for that first year. So it's depending on the size of your church, and for the size of our church, we're one of the larger churches. We're in the largest category that participate. It's a $5,000 fee a year, and so that goes to the seminary to help offset their degree. And then they're with us, and there's some things that we do, like we have an obligation. I meet with Derek once a week, and talk through things he's going through, just to basically shoot the breeze. And then we build the program around their needs. Now, we did that with the first group, and we were kind of late getting assigned, and didn't have an overall positive experience. One of our interns was really struggling and wound up having to go home. And then we were out of it for a little bit, or maybe we weren't. We were not out of it, but Zach was our next one. We had a great experience with Zach, but this little thing you may have heard of called COVID happened in his second semester.
That's awesome.
And so suddenly we were, all of that just went out the window. So we weren't able to finish it with him. And then there were a few years where we just, nobody wanted to pick us, and then last year, for the first time in a few years, we had an intern through Midwestern Timothy Track Fellowship, Timothy Track called, and his name was Romello Yakub, and our Ridgeview people will know him well because he did most of his internship through them. I'm still, though, in contact with Romello, and he's a great guy, and we love him deeply. And then as that ended, we got the opportunity with Eric, but it's moved now to Shepherd's Fellowship, so the program at Midwestern Seminary now funnels you in. It's gotten large enough, it'll funnel you, like if you're interested in doing this, this is what the Timothy track is. And if you're interested in doing this, this is what the Timothy track is. But if you're interested in pastoral ministry, the Timothy track is called Shepherd's Fellowship. And so that's just new this year. And so when Derek came to me and we talked with one another, I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "Well, I'd like to get some more experience up in front of people, because that was something that he struggled with, as people do, with just feeling comfortable and relaxed." And I said, "Well, I think we can design a program that would work well for you in that regard." And so he believed so as well, and so we've had him. And so what he will do with us, what he does here is he's on our teaching team, so he meets with us every Monday at 1 o'clock, and he has to be prepared to come to the teaching team meeting, as chaotic and silly as those are. He has to come prepared to the teaching team meeting, so he contributes to the creation of the sermon. November 17th, at the Ridgeview campus, he's preaching the 9:30 service. We're giving him the smallest of the 4 services that we have across the campuses, so he can get his feet wet there with those people, gracious people in that worship service, and they're going to be very affirming of him, and he's going to preach, and then I'll preach the 11 o'clock sermon at Ridgeview on the 17th. And then in March, he's going to preach both services at the Antioch campus. So that's kind of the framework that we built around him, and then he has hopped in, as he said, on his own, just doing ministry with Zach. And so, but the teeth of the internship with Derek is developing that preaching comfort.
So that may be like a good benefit for our interns and the interns in the Midwestern program. But how does the program give value to the local church that the interns are?
Well, I mean, in a very practical way. I mean, our current youth minister was a former intern, as we've already pointed out. So that's a kind of a practical help. But even if that were to never, ever happen, one of our values as a church is that we value a call to vocational full-time vocational or co-vocational ministry. And so if that is true, if we really do value that kind of call, then we need to insert ourselves into any opportunity God might give us to help people develop that. And right now, the easiest pathway for us to develop that is for, God through the seminary to send us someone that we can feed into. So, we've had a lasting impact on four guys. I'd tell you this. So, a guy named Austin Meisner, who was with us many years ago, he would tell you we had a lasting impact on him. Zach obviously would tell you we'd had a lasting impact on him. Romello would absolutely say that. I mean, I'm reviewing some stuff this week that Romello sent me, and then we hope Derek has the same kind of experience. So it's just an opportunity for us to pour into a next generation, even if it doesn't necessarily long-term benefit Blue Valley.
Well, and one thing, if I can add to that, just from the side of being that student that moves to Kansas City from who knows where, it's such a blessing to automatically have a home church when you get here. I mean, you don't know them yet, and you've got to learn that, and that's a process, and Derek's doing a great job at just jumping right in. But it's such a whether you're a single male or whether you're a guy with a family, it's, I have a family that I get to plug into. I have a family that I get to invest in as much as they're going to invest in me. And that's what the church is about. And we look back at the New Testament church and how much it was a training church, and how much Paul's, as the reason it was called a Timothy track, right? I mean, Paul and Timothy's relationship was a mentor, training, pastoral relationship. Mm-hmm. So we get to participate in that practice that was shown to us in the New Testament as the local church. And that's a really awesome thing to be a part of.
That was my next question, was how can our church minister to Derek? I feel like we did a good job with that with Romello. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned, it kind of felt like we were talking about our staff, maybe our elders. How can we minister to Derek? But how can our congregation minister to Derek while he's here with us?
Well, if you have any godly daughters or granddaughters in their early 20s, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's not.
He's sweating now. He's sweating.
Yeah.
If you have
Sweating,
extra
I'm
food,
sweating, yeah.
if you have a Starbucks gift card, no.
Yes, extra food. I will.
No, I would tell you this. I would tell you this. The Ridgeview campus on the 17th gets a real opportunity to affirm Derek. In him preaching that message that day over there. And then the Antioch campus is going to get a real opportunity to affirm him. I mean, I remember some of the, people not giving me feedback about my sermon, but just saying they were proud of me and thankful that I was preparing my life to preach. I remember getting those in my early days of my preaching. They were valuable for me. So that's a real easy, kind of a layup that the Ridgeview campus gets the opportunity to do first, and then we'll get to do later. But in the meantime, he's a college kid a long way from home. Can he come over for a meal? He's a college kid, a seminary kid, a long way from home. So, we give him I don't know. Is there a Cane's close to the? Is there a Cane's close to the schools? Give him a
Close
Cane's
enough.
gift card, or I know there's
closer.
a Wendy's there, or a Freddy's there. Just give him a gift card, and he's able to go out and eat. He's young. He's playing soccer. He can run it off. So just those kinds of things.
And Zach, did you have any?
I echo that, man. I mean, he's from the Oklahoma, backcountry. So his love language, and I know this because I've spent time with him, his love language is food.
Yep.
So, love on him, feed him. If you have a home cooked meal to cook him after church one day, invite him over to your house. That means a ton.
And let him regale you with stories of McAllister, Oklahoma, the home
really a special
of
place.
the Oklahoma State Penitentiary.
It's an interesting place.
Yeah.
Man.
Do you know what the Oklahoma State vegetable is?
I can tell you.
It's the watermelon.
It's the watermelon.
Is it really?
It's not even a vegetable. That's why.
It's a vegetable in Oklahoma.
Well,
That's
here's
all
the
that
thing.
matters.
Here's the thing. Do you know what the state flower of Oklahoma is? Do you know that?
And the state wildflower, I believe.
Well, the state flower, and we may be talking about the same
There are
things,
different things, but
is mistletoe, which is not even a flower, and it's a fungus. So there you go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
the wildflower was the Indian wildflower, I
The
believe.
Indian blanket. Indian blanket.
or
yeah.
Indian something.
Yeah, I think it's
But-
called Indian blanket. Yeah.
This is exactly why you should invite him over to your house.
That's
Just
right. He can
learning things
regale
about
you.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It won't all just be state facts and trivia. But
Underwood was
the state reptile is the mountain boomer.
There you go.
So there you go. State tree, red bud. I'm full of interesting facts about
Just bring
Oklahoma.
both Derricks and we could
That's
just.
right.
Bring both Derricks, and then
That's exactly right.
You'd have an entire encyclopedia
Of Oklahoma.
I can tell you all the reasons I'm glad to be from Oklahoma. So
And not there
Yeah,
anymore?
and not there anymore. Yeah,
I don't know. I drive through every now and then. Stayed a couple times.
it's a good place to drive through.
No, I mean, there was that.
I love Western Oklahoma. I do. That's the piece of Oklahoma most people hate. I love Western Oklahoma. Love the people of Western Oklahoma.
We
Really do.
saw the Drillers, the
Oh, yeah?
minor league team down there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
It was good.
I forgot at the staff retreat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked it, and the pizza was great. That one pizza.
That was
place we were
pizza
at,
place. Yeah,
ice cream was really good.
yeah.
So I never had hot honey pepperoni pizza before,
It's really good pizza.
and that
yeah.
was really good.
There you go.
So, speaking of hot honey, what is something that was popular? This is my just for fun moment at the end of the podcast. What was something that was popular when you grew up, but is embarrassing now?
Racism. When I grew up, when I grew up, that was super popular, and it's less popular now.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I will tell you, in all seriousness,
I didn't grow up with that. So
yeah, in all seriousness, I grew up in an era where Saturday morning was dedicated to cartoons being on TV. So I would wake up early and I would get a bowl of cereal and I would watch cartoons on television on Saturday morning.
What about you? I mean, okay, before we move on from that, did
Yeah.
you grow up and watch Saturday morning
So,
cartoons?
fun fact, I did, but I also have started that tradition with my son because
Do they still have them?
you can't watch them. You've got to go stream them, obviously.
Okay.
So we pretend that
Yeah.
we're watching WB Kids,
Yeah.
and put Batman the animated series
Yeah.
on, and we have
Yeah.
a bowl of cereal.
I mean, ours was Justice League and Bugs Bunny and
So I mean, it makes
the Jetsons.
It makes me feel old that you guys didn't get to really do that.
No, I got
in
to do
that
it.
way.
I totally
but,
got to do it.
Yeah, I share that with you.
No, good.
I
Yeah.
actually I do share that, and
Okay.
there is a channel I think it was Boomerang that would show a bunch of older stuff too.
Yeah.
So I actually some of the same shows as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, all the newer stuff, but when I was younger.
I grew up with
but
like The Tick and Freakazoid
Tick.
Yeah.
and Animaniacs.
Absolutely.
Animaniacs.
Yeah.
So those kind of silly.
Elaine Bennis's boyfriend, the guy that talks like this all the time. Yeah. He was the Tick in a real world action. It lasted for like four episodes, but it was
one
just
season.
it was
I
hysterical.
have it on DVD.
It was hysterical.
Of course you do.
It was
I
hysterical.
think I saw it at Walmart and I was like, yes, I have to have that.
It
now.
was hysterical. It
Yeah.
really was hysterical. That guy cracks me up.
Yeah. It was very silly.
Yeah.
So Zach, same question. Growing up, we have a bunch of different generations.
Well,
here on
I don't
this,
have
feels
something
like,
as
so-
impactful as racism, but yeah.
When you grew up in Louisiana, it was super popular. When,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Pokemon cards. Yeah, if you still own Pokemon cards, I'm not only embarrassed for you, I'm embarrassed to be around you. So, my kid got some for Christmas, and I was like, I don't know if I want this back in,
I don't want this back in my life.
right? Yeah, of course, I grew up like super sheltered conservative Christian, so Pokemon taught the evolution.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was also just Pokemon cards. You were the nerd, man, if
Yeah.
you had the Pokemon cards.
I had
So,
tons of Pokemon cards.
yeah.
And then a few years ago, I sold all of those first edition Pokemon cards and bought a guitar.
Yeah,
So,
hey,
win-win.
they did. I mean, it was not too long ago that one of those sold for a ton of money. So
Yeah.
maybe there is some monetary value.
Still
but
have a holographic Charizard, but that's Beth's, not mine.
I'm
It's
embarrassed
not
for
mine
you,
to sell,
and I'm
so-
embarrassed to be around you.
So, Derek.
I don't think I
Rodriguez.
have anything I could think of that
We-
was
you-
popular.
you're
but-
before-
wait,
close to it.
You're
wait.
23?
Wait, 22.
Before
22.
he goes, we were in teaching team. It was while you were away. I think you were in New York, and we decided since all the old people were gone, we're going to have teaching team at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So we did, and we're sitting around, and Derek made a comment about his age. And some other people made a realization of how old they were. And basically how Aaron realized how young Derek was is he said, Shrek is older than you.
Yeah.
So that made us all feel great.
Really, what we learned was that
I wasn't going to do that, but you're going to do it.
Tracy McElhatton is the same age as his mother.
I was gonna say that one.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
You're
throw
older.
under the bus, but it's true.
A year older.
You're
either
older,
way.
same age.
Either way.
It's close.
Yeah.
That thrilled me to no end.
That's wow.
So before Pokemon cards, when I was even younger, it was Beanie Babies. If you guys remember
Yeah, I
Beanie
remember,
Babies.
I remember
Oh, yeah.
buying Beanie Babies for my kids.
Explosion. And they're like, it's going to be worth so much money. So one of these days.
None of that stuff is.
And now I have a box of them that
Yeah.
we give away occasionally to church kids or
Yeah.
something.
Totally.
Because it's like, what were we thinking? What were you thinking?
We weren't.
We weren't. We're just reading a book. This Princess
Should've-
Diana bear is going to be worth
Yeah.
this much because of those kinds of beans that were in it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Should have just invested in the stock market.
Should have. Probably, yeah. So, thank you, Derrick Rodriguez, for telling us really cool things about Oklahoma.
Yep.
And yourself. And thanks for being here for our Pastor Speak podcast and introducing yourself to our congregation. Thanks, Zach and Derek, for helping us understand the program a little bit better and maybe how we can minister to Derek. And thank you for our audience for listening, watching, however you do that. Super excited that you were here for it. And until next time, go serve your King.